Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm at Niizato Station in the north of Okayama Prefecture. This is the view of the station from the car park, and as you can see, the platforms are relatively long. They're long enough for an 8-carriage train, certainly, although I'm pretty sure there aren't 8-carriage local trains on this part of the Hakabi line anymore. So anyway, let's take a look at the station. Walking up the first flight of steps, you can either go straight on to the southbound platform, or you can cross the lines onto the northbound platform. So let's do that first. As you can see, the platform, certainly the northbound platform, is relatively narrow, and at least part of the reason for this is that it's sandwiched between the side of a hill and the railway itself. You can possibly see from here that the southbound platform is a little bit wider. Both of the platforms have waiting shelters, but we'll take a little look at those later, I think. Let's take a walk all the way to the very end of the platform first. I think that the slightly decrepit state of the platform at this stage indicates that trains don't stop this far down the platform anymore. I think I'm right in saying that although there may be the occasional 4-carriage train, local services on this part of the Hakabi line are only 2 carriages long. You can get an idea of just how narrow the southbound platform is because the station sign is bolted to the wall rather than being on its own stand as it is on the southbound platform. I think the fact that the station is on a quite a severe curve makes this platform feel all the narrower. Anyway, this is one of the 2-carriage local trains I was just talking about. This train is having to wait for an express going south to pass. The station has 2 platforms, but the vast majority of the Hakabi line, other than at stations, is single track. And this is the express I was just talking about. Which means that now the line is clear for the local train to head on north. And here we have another express approaching. This one is heading north to Izumoshi. This platform certainly does feel very narrow when there's a fast train passing through. Anyway, with the express having passed, there's quite a bit of time until the next train. So let's take a look inside the waiting room. It's a fairly simple construction, as you can see. There are a few pictures, I think, from a local school, and there is the timetable for the line. You can't quite see the whole of the timetable, but take my word for it, it's not a very frequent service. If I remember correctly, there are 9 trains south towards Okayama a day and 8 trains north. I say towards Okayama, but in actual fact, I think every train apart from one terminates at Nimi, which is just 2 or 3 stations down the line from here. I think you can see it's a pretty rural place, and I think it's fair to say it's a very rural service. Anyway, let's cross over and take a look along the other platform now. The southbound platform is definitely wider than the northbound, but not by very much, I think it's fair to say. Anyway, while we're walking along this platform, let me give you just a little bit of history. Niizato Station is the northernmost station in Okayama Prefecture on the Hakubi line. The next station north, Kami Iwami Station, is actually in Tottori Prefecture. The section of the Hakubi line on which the station is situated was opened on December the 1st, 1926, but the station itself wasn't opened until December the 15th, 1953. Apparently, the costs of constructing and opening the station here were raised by the then village selling timber from the forests it owned. An interesting story. Maybe back in 1953 a village station was really necessary. It certainly seems like the sort of rural area where it would be difficult to travel to the next village or settlement to catch a train. However, I don't think you can say that really this station is particularly necessary now. The most recent figures for usage, and these figures are from 2021, show an average of just 7 people using the station each day. In fact, I'm pretty sure that the same could be said for many, possibly most, of the local stations on the Hakubi line, certainly in the northern section north of Nimi. The usage figures just really don't justify the station's existence. I may be getting the wrong end of the stick here, but it certainly seems to me that the Hakubi line is generally a line for the express trains and for freight between the inland sea coast and the Japan sea coast of Japan, and vice versa, of course. I think to a very large extent the local services are just something that are thrown in on top of those services. Even so, and I've said this in many previous videos, I do think it would be a real shame if local services on lines like these were to be discontinued. I'm not suggesting that anyone is suggesting that, certainly not for the Hakubi line, but I think realistically there will come a time when services to stations like these are reconsidered. And when they are reconsidered, it doesn't take that much of a leap of imagination to see that there will be several voices, many voices, majority of voices even, arguing for abolition of stations like this and services that serve stations like this. I hope that never happens, but realistically, I think in the coming years, in the coming decades, it may well happen. Anyway, this is the waiting shelter for the southbound platform, and as you can see, it's pretty much the same as the one for the northbound platform. I do like all those presumably handmade cushions on the bench. From here you can get a pretty good view of the length of the station. As I say, it's for 8 carriages, although it's not used by 8 carriages anymore. You have to wonder why they bothered building such a large station at a relatively late time. 1953 is relatively late in the history of the railways. I suppose at that time the trains were less frequent but longer. Anyway, speaking of longer trains, here's another Yakumo express service from Izumoshi to Okayama. These trains are due to be withdrawn during 2024 to be replaced by new trains of a pretty similar design in actual fact, although the new trains are going to be bronze. Anyway, here comes another northbound Yakumo Express. These trains run roughly every hour. This particular set has been repainted into the livery that these trains used to carry originally, the livery of the old Japanese national railways. It's very easy to see how severe the curves are on this part of the line. These trains are the only ones that make me feel sick, in fact. Anyway, this is my train, the local train back to Nimi, just coming. I don't think there's any chance of this train going fast enough to make me feel sick. Anyway, I'd better finish. So thank you very much for watching, and as ever, I hope to see you again in another video very soon. For now though, goodbye.